From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the Daily News for June 23rd, 2026. These are the stories we are covering at this hour. A judge has blocked the use of a federal database to check citizenship, saying it could wrongly purge voters. A federal judge on Monday ruled that a recently revamped version of a federal tool central to the Trump administration's efforts to nationalize elections can no longer be used. U.S. District Court Judge Sparkle L. Suknanan sided with advocacy groups that argued the recent upgrades to the program, called Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements, or SAVE, aggregated American sensitive personal data in a way that could result in voters being wrongly purged from voter rolls. All in all, the federal government has knowingly trampled on the privacy rights of American citizens in a manner that threatens the sacred right to vote, Suknanan said in an order explaining the decision. This court cannot stand idly by while that happens, she said. Congress had expressly prohibited the government from centralizing Americans' personal identifying information, and that the federal agencies that created the SAVE program knew that the database violates those statutory protections. The decision is a major legal setback for President Donald Trump in his efforts to use federal agencies to encourage a nationwide crackdown on having non-citizens illegally on state voter rolls. The modified SAVE system, which critics had referred to as an unlawful centralized federal database of voter information, had been a key pillar of the second election executive order the Republican president signed earlier this year, meaning earlier in 2025. The ruling leaves its future uncertain. Voting by non-citizens is already illegal and punishable as a potential felony that could lead to deportation. It is also rare, accounting for just a tiny fraction of those on state voter rolls. In other news, the Pentagon is seeking $80 billion from Congress for its Iran war. The Pentagon has told senators it needs roughly $80 billion, mostly to cover the cost of the U.S. war against Iran, adding to what is already a sizable military spending boost being sought by President Donald Trump. The White House Office of Management and Budget has yet to make a formal request to Congress, but Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has been making the rounds of Capitol Hill, including Monday evening. A top deputy defense secretary told senators about the Iran funding request last week, according to two people familiar with the situation but not authorized to discuss it publicly. The Wall Street Journal first reported on the developments. The push for more money for the Pentagon, however, faces skeptical lawmakers. The push for billions of dollars in Iran war funding comes at a fraught political moment. Lawmakers are skeptical of the deal Trump struck with Iran to bring an end to the war and wary of next steps. The White House has requested a remarkable $1.5 trillion for the Pentagon, a nearly 50% increase over the current fiscal year's funding levels. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said he's expecting a supplemental spending request from the administration for the war, and when it arrives, we'll work through it and see where the votes are. We need to make sure we're doing everything we can to resupply a lot of our munitions that have been depleted, not only just with what's happening with Iran, but prior to that, said Thune, the Republican from South Dakota. And finally, millions of honeybees have escaped into a rural Texas neighborhood after a semi-trailer crash. Millions, that's right, millions of honeybees escaped into a rural Texas neighborhood after a semi-trailer carrying nearly 400 hives tipped over, officials said. Emergency officials in Orange County, Texas, shut down roads in the area Sunday morning and warned residents to stay in their homes while crews worked to unload the trailer and salvage as many hives as possible. The county is located east of Houston and borders Louisiana. No bee stings or serious injuries were immediately reported. Officials haven't identified the owner of the hives. Christy Ray, who owns nearby Queen Bee Supply, said volunteers from 3 or 4 other beekeeping businesses in the area went to the crash scene Sunday to help. They just help each other. That's what they do, Ray said. The beekeeping community is a great community. Chris Moore, no relation to me that I know of, owner of Moore Honey, along with his son and several employees, joined the effort to help the bees, but he estimated that only about a quarter of the 408 hives will survive. It mostly depends on how many queens remain alive after the crash, he said. That's the news at this hour. PEP Radio is available on the Live 365 app, the PEP Radio page at paequality.com, Roku, Alexa, and wherever you find streaming radio. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.